Hi again, everyone. I'm going to tackle the exercises from Chapter 30 in this lesson. I'm going to start with exercises 131. We'll see how long it can take. I don't want to make much longer than a 10-minute video for each exercise section, so maybe we'll do two at a time. We'll see. But let's start with 131, number 2. This is on page 210 of Shelmerdine. Doyanan ta kremata hotini pisteosean. All right, so doyan. This iota should be raising some questions. This is a tricky verb. Pisteoeon, again, where we might be seeing some kind of moods going on here. We're tasked with identifying the following constructions and to translate. So we've got doyan plus on here. Takremata, so that's just going to be a noun. Can't tell if that's nominative or accusative at this point, although if you know Greek, you probably have an idea. But you know, there's a lot going on here. Hoitini, or hoitini, another thing that we've just seen. This is going to be our indefinite relative, and this is something that we've seen replacing the if, in conditionals. So this is a conditional relative. And since we're supposed to identify it, then we're supposed to identify what kind of condition are we looking at. So what we've got here, essentially, this hoitini, or hoitini, I tend not to pronounce the iota subscript, is equivalent to your a. So a plus, what mood is this? So pistelwo is the verb. Pistels is going to be either future or aorist. Seeing the thematic alpha here in this construction should be telling you, that's going to be aorist. And then you'd say, well, why no augment? Well, because it's not indicative. This is optative, aorist optative. And this on ending, classic secondary tense ending for third person plural. So they is going to be the subject of this. And then pistelwo, believe. So they believe, but we're going to need to modulate that to capture the aorist optative. Doyen, well, that's going to be the same sort of thing. Again, secondary ending, n, but here also aorist, but a strong aorist coming from what verb? Well, this is didomi, to give. So this has a complex morphology, as often the me verbs do, but especially didomi, tithemi, and another one I'm forgetting. It's not deiknumi. Anyway, this is a tricky verb. The verb of giving is almost always in languages a complicated verb, so that's to be expected. So here we have it. Aorist optative with on. Aorist optative. So who cares about the aorist? What does the aorist mean here? Simple. It doesn't have anything to do with tense, has everything to do with aspect in these conditions. So we're looking at giving of one time and pisteoing, that is trusting, believing one time. So if we have on or optative, a plus optative, optative plus on, if we're going to write it protasis first. Note that here we have an apodosis first, but if we're going to do the standard protasis, apodosis, a plus optative, optative plus on, we know we're looking at a future less vivid. Would, should. So they should give money, the money, to, and this is where the dative of this indirect object, this indirect indefinite relative pronoun, hoitini, to whomever. So they should, and we're not saying that should is in obligation, we're saying might. They should give money. Maybe I should use the euro sign, right? No, that's not the euro sign, it's a cent sign. Whatever. They should give money to whomever they would believe / trust. And note that this verb, pistewo, takes a dative as well, so that's actually kind of convenient. You trust in someone. So that raises a good point that comes up on page 209 at the very bottom. Shelmerdine gives an example where these relative pronouns can be playing double duty in terms of their case. On the one hand, this needs to be an indirect object for the preceding sentence. On the other hand, it needs to be the object of this verb. So in this case, that's actually incredibly convenient that both need the dative. This doesn't always happen, and then the case will go in the direction that's more important for understanding. Often as part of the clause, of the relative clause itself, that's where its case function normally takes precedent. But here, through a nice fortuitous arrangement, maybe Shelmerdine was being purposeful on this, both need a dative indirect object, or at least the giving is an indirect object. Both need a dative hotini, so that's exactly what we need. They should give money to whomever they would believe or trust. All right, great. 131, number 4. Hostis buletai archein malakindinewe. All right, what are we looking at here? Hostis, our indefinite relative, whoever. Masculine, hos. Nominative, hos and tis. So whoever, not whomever, but whoever. Buletai, coming from bulomai, a deponent verb meaning want. So whoever wants to rule, to have control, to be in power. That's going to be our protasis, right there. Mala, adverb modifying the verb kendenewe. Well, let's talk about this. Kendunewe. What is that? No sigma to say future, no past indicative augment. This is standard present tense. He runs, so he very much runs risks. We might better translate this as runs many risks, since we've got, in this run risk verb translation in English, we've got a noun. So we can use an adjective, runs many risks. But he very much runs risks would be a more Greek way to translate this. So what kind of condition is this? We translated before we identified. That's actually a faux pas. One should not do that. But we did, so let's try to make sense of it. This hostis can be relative, or can be general, so we might expect this to be a present general, and that indeed seems to be what works best here. So I think we want to think of this as a present general where we're not using the subjunctive, because remember, we have that option. However, you might also just think of this as a simple condition, because everything's in the indicative, there's no on, and then it's made general simply by dint of this hostis. These, to make a distinction here, would be fairly academic. Greeks aren't going to have a problem with this. It's a generalized concept. It's a simple condition. Whether we want to call it present general with a lack of subjunctive, that's just grammar rules. That's not anything to do with the language itself. So let's feel good about getting these exercises from 131 done. So I guess exercises 131 is really what we did here. We'll move on to exercises 132, also from chapter 30, in the next lesson. See you then.